This is going to be a video on how to play Heroscape according to the Rise of the Valkyrie rulebook. I'll probably do other series with the other rulebooks. There won't be much difference, just some rules changes. This is the second edition rules from the Rise of the Valkyrie Master Set. So let's learn how to play Heroscape. We will start with the basic game guide, and then we will go into the actual master game guide. But the first step is getting ready to play, and that's set up your battlefield and your army. To do this, you can use the battlefield game scenario that comes in the booklet. Otherwise, you can also just build what you feel like. And right here, I chose to build the Forsaken Waters map. And for the basic game guide, it recommends that players choose an army with one player being the quote-unquote good army, and the other player is the quote-unquote evil army. So now, let's talk about army cards. Here is example 1, your army cards. This is the basic game side. You've chosen the evil army with one hero, Mimring, and 2 squads, 4 Mara warriors, and 2 Zedian guards. You've taken your 3 army cards and placed them in front of you. You've placed your army, all 7 figures, on their starting positions on the battlefield, which, according to the basic game guide for the map, the Forsaken Waters, this is how your army is going to start. I did not put the glyph of Brandar in here, but this is what it looks like when they're placed on the board. And here is a basic side army card numbers. They've got a move of 4. Heavy armor makes the Zedian guards slower than many other figures. You can move each one up to 4 spaces. Range is 7. Laser-powered weaponry gives the Zedian guards a fairly long range. Each one can attack up to 7 spaces away. Then we have attack 2. Lack of agility can affect the Zedian guard's aim. For each attacking Zedian guard, you roll 2 attack dice. And then defense 7. The Zedian guards are well protected by their armor. Each time one is attacked, you get to roll 7 defense dice. And then you have their world, Alpha Prime, their set, Rise of the Valkyrie, and then their collector number, even though there was no random packs for Heroscape. And then we have the combat dice. The combat dice are used as attacking dice, rolling for skulls, and also defense dice, rolling for shields. To start the basic game, each player will roll 6 combat dice. The player who rolls the most skulls will actually take the first turn. Reroll if there's a tie. Players will then alternate turns until the game is over. Usually you'll do 3 actions on your turn in this order. Action 1, choose an army card. First, choose any of your army cards to use on your turn. The hero figure or squad figures on this card may move, then attack, if possible, on this turn. Which army card should you choose? It depends on a lot of things: the location of your figures, their move, range, and attack numbers, which enemy figures you want to attack, and of course your victory objective. As you'll play, you'll get a better feel for which army card to use on each turn. For example, let's say you choose the Zedian Guard squad on this turn. You want to attack the enemy, your opponent's army figures, as soon as you can. The Zedian Guards have the farthest range, 7 spaces, and the best defense, 7 dice, in your army, so you want to get them moving. Action 2 would be move figures on the army card. Now you may move any or all figures on your chosen army card if you want to. Follow these rules for moving each figure. First, check the move number. You may move a figure in any direction up to the move number on its army card. For example, with a move number of 4, the Zedian guards can each move 1, 2, 3, or 4 spaces. Uneven terrain and water may limit their movement, as you'll soon see. Here is an example of basic movement. On this turn, you choose to move each Zedian guard their full 4 spaces toward the enemy figures on the battlefield. Passing and landing on other figures. You can move through a space with a friendly figure, one of yours, on it, but you can't move through a space with an opponent's figure on it. Never end a move space on a space with any other figure. Move squad figures in any order, one at a time. Moving up and down. When you move to a higher level, count the side of each higher level as one space, as well as the space you land on. When you move to any lower level, you don't need to count sides on the way down. Examples 4 and 5 will show you how to move up and down. First, example 4, moving up. Count 4 spaces for your Zedian guard to move up onto this ledge. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then moving down. To get down from this ledge, the Zedian guard will only count 1 space on his move. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he went down 2 different ledges, but again, it only costs 1 point to move down. Now we're going to discuss moving into water. When you move onto a water space from any other space, even from another water space, you must end your move there. So here's an example of moving into water. When he moves into a water space, your Zedian guard must stop after moving only 2 spaces. Moving from water to land. For water spaces that are lower than their adjacent land spaces, the moving up rule still applies. When moving from water to land, count the side of each land space you move. For example, we'll do this one, moving out of water. When moving from the water space to an adjacent land space, the Zedian guard must count 2 spaces, as this is higher than the water tile. This is 1, 2, 3, and then 4 is where the Zedian will end. Okay, now we'll talk about moving double-spaced figures. Some figures, like Grimnack and Mimring, for example, take up 2 spaces. When moving a double-spaced figure, decide which end to lead with. For example, the front end or the back end. Then move the figure so that the other end follows the same spaces that the leading end just left. Always end a double-spaced figure's move on the 2 same level spaces. And now we'll show you an example on how to move a double-spaced figure. Double-spaced figures do not have to stop when moving only 1 water space between 2 land spaces, but they do have to stop when moving down into 2 adjacent water spaces. For example, Mimring has a move of 6, and we'll choose this as the leading edge for the double spaces. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, because it's just a single water space, 4, 5, 6. And that happened because from his starting spaces, Mimring moves 6 spaces head first, with his back section following along the same spaces. Notice that Mimring counts the side of the land space when moving up from the water space still. His move ends across the water on 2 spaces of the same level. And now we're going to go over the third action you can take during your turn, which is attack with figures on the army card. It's time for your hero squad to attack any figures in your opponent's army that they can. Who can attack? Any figure on your chosen army card within range of an opponent's figure and with a clear line of sight can attack. If no figure on your army card meets these 2 conditions, you can't attack and your turn is over. First off, to see if a figure can attack, check the range and line of sight as explained. First is range. A targeted figure must be within the attacking figure's range. For example, with a range of 7, a Zedian guard can attack an enemy within 7 spaces from it. A figure with a range of 1 can attack a figure only on an adjacent space. A double-space figure can attack from either space. When checking a figure's range, don't count extra spaces for higher levels. However, being on a higher level is an advantage during an attack. That'll be called height advantage. Also, if the distance between you and the targeted figure includes an area with no spaces, for example near the edge of a battlefield, you must count the spaces along the battlefield to check range. And right here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that airborne elite figure is within range of the Zedian guard's attack. But now we have to check line of sight. To an attack a targeted figure, your figure must be able to, quote-unquote, see it from its location. If the targeted figure is, for example, behind a ruin or a ledge so that the attacker can't see any part of it, then no attack is possible. Unlike range, line of sight is an imaginary straight line and has nothing to do with spaces on the battlefield. The best way to tell if your attacker has a clear line of sight is to get behind its head and look at the targeted figure. If you can see any part from its head, you have a clear line of sight. Note, it doesn't matter if the line of sight goes off the edge of the battlefield with no spaces below it. Here is how to determine a figure is within range and line of sight, as counted the spaces below, but we can now go back here, checking to see if you have clear line of sight. So from the head of the Zedian Guard, right there, you can see that it does have a clear line of sight on the Airborne Elite unit. And now we'll go through a quick example of how an attack plays out. The figures on your chosen army card attack one at a time in any order. Each figure can only attack once, but different figures can attack the same opposing figure. For each attacker, follow these rules. Announce which of your figures is the attacker and which it is attacking. The attacked figure becomes the defender. Check the attack number on the attacker's army card, which in this case on the Zedian Guards is 2. And then roll that number of attack dice. After you roll, your opponent rolls the number of defense dice on the defending army card, which in this case is a defense of 2 for the Airborne Elite. So we are first going to choose to attack with this Zedian Guard who has height advantage over the Airborne Elite. We'll discuss that now. So height advantage, if the base of one figure is higher than the base of the other figure, no matter their actual size, the higher figure rolls 1 extra die. For every skull you roll for your attacker, your opponent must roll at least 1 shield for its defender to block it. Important. For attack rolls, the attacker only counts skulls. For defense rolls, the defender only counts shields. If you roll more skulls than the defender rolls shields, your attack is successful and the defender is destroyed in this case. The player who controls it places it out of the game. If you roll the same number of skulls or less than the defender rolls shields, your attack is unsuccessful. The attacking and defending figures stay where they are, and the attack is over. After attacking with every figure that can attack, the turn is over. So, we'll go through this process now with the first attack of the Zedian Guard. Each of these 2 Zedian Guards is within range of the enemy Airborne Elite figure and has a clear line of sight, so you choose the Zedian Guard with height to launch the first attack. Zedian Guards have an attack number of 2, which means you'll roll 2 attack dice, but this Zedian Guard has height advantage over the defender, so you roll an extra attack die for a total of 3 dice. So you can prepare those. So then we have our result, which is 2 skulls and a blank. The defender has a defense number of 2, so your opponent will roll 2 defense dice. And it looks like 2 shields. The defender blocks the attack. Both figures stay where they are. Now your other Zedian Guard can attack. You decide to attack the same defender. The attacking Zedian Guard could have had height advantage if you moved him in a more advantageous position, but for this second attack, it does not. So you roll your 2 attack dice, but you still get a result of 2 skulls. And again, the defender rolls the 2 defense dice. Sadly, only 1 skull and 1 shield. Well, not sadly for you, because you're attacking. So you win the attack. Your opponent takes his destroyed Airborne Elite figure out of the game. You have no more attacks to make. Your turn is now over. And then you just keep playing until one player achieves the victory objective of the chosen game scenario. That player wins the battle. Or you can just play a kill-em-all style where you just eliminate each other's units and the one with the last remaining units lives. Or you can just come up with some other way to play. With experience, you may want to build your own battlefields and create your own game scenarios, armies, and victory conditions. Good luck, and may the best Valkyrie general win.